G'day folks, welcome to this review playthrough, an example of play of Nemo's War 2nd Edition. And this is currently on Kickstarter. It's actually the Ultimate Edition on Kickstarter, available with several expansions. So I thought while this is active, while there's the option to back this, I'll run through an example and show you how the game plays out, just in case this sort of piques your interest. This is designed by Christopher Taylor and Alan Emmerich. It was first published by Victory Point Games several years ago. The art is by Ian O'Toole, and I love Ian O'Toole games. I have a lot of games, a lot of the Vitala Soda games in particular, with the art by Ian O'Toole. He does a great job of communicating intent through this colourful symbology, which I love. It really helps link things together and clarifies what you're looking for. Now I have the game set up at the very start. It's ready to go. You start by basically placing all these different coloured ships around the board. You can see these are basically when my notoriety, this is my notoriety track, when it reaches a certain point, I place the blue ships into the cup. Then when I reach here, I place the greenish ships. What else? We start by placing all these unknown ships, hidden ships, sorry, around the board in these coloured areas. I roll to place my ship, and I've placed it here in the North Atlantic. You'll notice also there are these little gem icons. They're all over the 6 major oceans, and they indicate that there is something to be found in that region. So I can travel to the regions where there are gems to search to try to uncover treasure. The colours don't matter at all. They could all, for the effect, be the same colour. Up here we have really our turn counter. This is a deck that's been seeded. There are various acts or sort of chapters, and then we have a finale somewhere towards the bottom. This has all been prepared beforehand. We have our action point track along here. You have at most 5 action points. A summary of the different actions you can do just below there. We have, throughout the game, you'll be performing these actions like searching, repairing, refitting, and so forth. And the summary of those actions, your chance for success, applicable modifiers, is all listed down here on the action success table. This typically involves rolling 2d6, applying a couple of modifiers, and then hoping to achieve a high roll. Generally, you want to roll high. Over on the right-hand side, we have another adventure deck with a gem on top. This is another opportunity for you to uncover cards and participate in adventures and gain victory points. We have the turn sequence here. It's a very straightforward turn sequence. This is a very procedural game. The thing that makes it fascinating is the broad range of options and choices that you have. So it's quite a, straight procedural sequence, but when it's your turn to perform actions, there's a lot of choices available. One of those is combat, and so we have the combat sequence here. This is pretty straightforward. Generally involves making 2 die rolls. The first die roll is for warships attacking you, and you may suffer damage. The second is when you attack those enemy ships, and they can be warships or non-warships. And you'll collect those ships. When you collect those ships, you need to make a decision whether you salvage the ships, place them over here, and I'll talk about that in a moment, or whether you sink the ships for tonnage. And when you do that, you place them on this tonnage track down in the bottom right. And that tonnage track, depending on how many ships you sink, can gain you victory points at the end of the game. If you salvage ships, you store them up here, and you basically discard those ships to acquire kind of new technologies, which you can see on the right here. And again, these are randomly dealt. There's a deck of, sorry, not technologies, they're called Nautilus Upgrades. And you can start the game with 1 upgrade according to your motive. Now, each game, you will choose a motive, and I've chosen the Explore motive. It's good for beginners, and I'm still a beginner at this game. And this modifies the victory conditions slightly, and the end game conditions. So the game will end when my what's it called again? Notoriety reaches this point here, 36 defeat. If I become too notorious for sinking enemy ships and doing sort of crazy things around the world, the game will end. Ideally, I want to reach the finale. I want to explore the world, and I want to see wonders. Every wonder I see is worth ×7 victory points. I also want to make scientific discoveries. They're worth ×4. And you can see here, if I discover the electric-powered crew armor, it's a scientific discovery, which will give me 1 × 4 victory point. I already have the hydro drive, so right now I'm sitting on 4 victory points with that little 1 lightning bolt up in the top. I'm also somewhat interested in liberation, and this is basically where you liberate the people of the world by placing these liberation cubes around various areas, and each of those placed gives me ×3 victory points. I have some interest in treasure. This is my treasure cup here, and they have various sort of values on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, sometimes a special ability. This one, I can discard it for an action whenever I want. And at the end of the game, they are worth +1 victory point each. Now, as an explorer, my explore motive, I'm not too interested in sinking enemy ships. In fact, I suffer -1 victory point penalty for each warship sunk. So you can see here, if I sink the Synop, instead of getting me 4 victory points, it'll be 4 -1 for 3. So that's not really my motive. I don't want to go around sinking these ships. Non-warships and adventure cards are their normal cost. Nonetheless, I may need some of these ships, and certainly the game starts off in a fairly peaceful situation. There's not a lot of, well, there are no warships visible, all these hidden ships. But as the game progresses, a lot more of these ships will come out. We'll start drawing ships from the cup, and for the most part, we'll be drawing some non-warships and some warships that are relatively, well, it's a sea serpent actually. But here, this one, for example, relatively easy to defeat. But as the game progresses, as we advance through the acts, as we trigger these various events, we'll add more warships to the cup, and the seas, the oceans, will become full of enemy ships. Look, it's a very easy game to play through. I say that prepared to make mistakes. We have crew down here that we can exhaust to gain benefits. So, for example, with Conseil here, I can exhaust him to make 1 reroll. But then at the end of the game, I don't get his victory point bonus, and I flip him face down to show he's been used. So 4 victory points suffered for that reroll. So it's an interesting decision. Often that reroll could net me a valuable enemy ship, which could be worth 5, 6, 7 victory points, for example. What else do we have on the board? Okay, so we've got our ships, I guess, resources up here. We have Nemo and his sort of mental stability. We have our crew and how healthy they are, fresh, fit, tired, and so forth. And we have our hull, ship shape, fighting trim, and so forth. And these little indicators show the strength of those resources. So Nemo, everything starts at full strength. And you have, when you set up the game, the option to equip your motive-specific technology. In this case, this is the Explore Motive upgrade, the Hydro Drive, by spending any 3 resources. So I've spent 2 crew and 1 hull. And I guess my thinking behind this is, when you suffer damage, you roll the dice to see what you suffer. You're more likely to suffer hull damage. So I've only taken 1 of those. You have a shorter Nemo track, so I don't want to lose too much of those. And there are quite a lot of cards that heal your crew. So I've taken 2 of those, plus their modifier remains strong. Their modifier remains strong. What do I mean by that? Okay, so when you make a die roll, you can apply all these various modifiers, but often you can gamble a resource to apply that modifier. So if I need to roll, for example, 9 or more, I can gamble a +3 modifier. If I succeed, so for example, if I needed 9 or more, I rolled an 8, 9, 10, 11. I succeed, I get that resource back. If I fail, let's say I rolled 5, 6, 7, 8, and I needed a 9, I lose that resource. So I'm gambling my resources. And sometimes when you've got the easy rolls, it's easier. You can gamble these resources to kind of guarantee your success. When it's a more difficult roll, like when you need a 9, 10, 11, there's some difficult rolls in there. it's often a tense decision to make whether or not you want to gamble these resources on what could be an unlucky roll. Keeping in mind, of course, you can apply, for example, a +2 dice roll modifier after the roll, or a +3 dice roll modifier. And there are various upgrades and events and treasures that let you change these rolls and modify them and so forth. What else have I not covered? Look, I think that's most of it. I haven't gone through the actions, but I think the best way to demonstrate how these work is to play through a game and show you how it all works. So, every turn starts by drawing the top card of the draw pile. And when you start the game, the first card will always be Act 1. The facts relating to this apparition, entered in various logbooks, agree in most respects as to the shape of the object or creature in question, the untiring rapidity of its movements, its surprising power of locomotion, and the peculiar life with which it seemed endowed. If it was a whale, its surpassing size, all those hitherto classified in science. Now, this indicates that I will roll 2 dice in a moment. For now, I roll a die and place the Nautilus in a corresponding major ocean, and I've already done this just before I started recording. For now, it says, commence play with the next card. So I read the next card, and this is the South Pole. To overcome all the obstacles around the South Pole, even more unattainable than the North Pole, which still hadn't been reached by the boldest navigators, wasn't this an absolute insane undertaking? One that could occur only in the brain of a madman. Now, this particular card is an event that I keep. So I put it in front of me in my sort of card tableau somewhere down here. And it indicates that when I'm in the South Atlantic, I can spend 2 actions, or 1 action during a lull turn, and I'll explain what that is in a moment, to gain 1 notoriety to pass. Now, at game's end, I fail if unused. So this card gives me a notoriety, but the reason I'd want to pass it is because of these victory points up here. In particular, as an explorer, this is a scientific discovery worth ×4 for 4 victory points, and it's an adventure card victory point. So this is worth a total of 8 victory points if I pass it. So it's well worth getting to the South Atlantic and spending those actions. Okay, now this is my first step complete. Now the placement phase. I roll 2 dice. I determine several things. First, I work out the difference between the 2 die. The difference is 2, so I gain 2 action points, and the setup indicates that you start the game with 1. So I'm now up to 3 action points. Secondly, I place ships in the indicated oceans. So this says I place 1 ship in Ocean 3, which is just this little 3 there, and I place a ship in Ocean 5. Now, the nature of this placement depends on what is currently in that ocean. If there are vacant spots, I simply place a hidden ship. Once these become full, as you can see here in the European seas, if I were to place another ship here, I'll remove a hidden ship and draw one of those ships from my ship cup. Now this starts off with a lot of, as I mentioned earlier, white and yellow ships, but there will be suited with more difficult ships as the game progresses. So, placement phase, I've rolled the dice, I've placed ship tokens, used the differential to determine action points, and now I go to the action phase. And this is the heart of the game and the core of your decision-making process. 3 actions, what do I want to do? Well, as I said, I have the explore, so I really want to search and insight, and what else? Search, insight, yeah, pretty much those as much as possible, and complete these events. As I'm currently in the North Atlantic and there is treasure here available, I am going to conduct the search action, which is listed up in the top here of the action success table. I can exert any 1 ship's resource. I'm going to exert this to gamble it for a +3 modifier. I don't have the arcane library. It's a really nice one to have. And -1 per revealed ship token in this area. Well, there are none. So it's just a +3 modifier to my roll. 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, this is a success, and I collect 1 treasure. So I dip into here, and I get, okay, not bad, 2 victory points for treasure, keeping in mind this will be worth +1 at the end of the game, or I can discard at any time for another action. When I succeed, I remove that treasure, and that is my first action complete. Now, you can attack in this ocean. I attack an unknown ship. I guess tactical advice for new players is wait until this begins to fill up. Don't really waste your actions on these attacks until you really need to, and until it's clear what you're fighting. Right, so what else can I do? I think I'm going to get moving. I think I may move to the South Atlantic and, well, I might search first and wait and see what happens next turn. So I can spend an action. Now with my Hydro Drive, every time I perform a move action, I can move up to 2 consecutive oceans. So I'm just going to spend 1 action to move down to here to search. I gamble 3, or I exert 3. I make a die roll. It's a 10, 11, 12, 13. And this is a Eureka result. It's greater than or equal to 12, which means I can draw 2 treasures from here. And it's another 3 plus 1, and another action, or 2 plus 1. And we remove the gem to indicate that that's complete. That's my 3 actions for the turn. That's a turn complete. We start the next turn. Often these turns move through very quickly. In this case, I had 3 actions. Often you've only got 1 or maybe a lull turn where you get no actions. Basically what happens is, and I'll go to another turn to show you. We draw another card. Now this is an underwater forest. Captain Nemo invites Professor Aronnax on a hunting trip that will take place tomorrow morning in his Crespo Island forests. This is a test, and I can exert Nemo and the crew for 4 plus 5. Now normally you can only exert 1 crew resource, but this test has Nemo and the crew, and my understanding is, I could be wrong here, the rules say normally only exert 1, but the rules also say that you can exert any and all resources indicated on the card. You can see there. So I think that means that I can exert both for a plus 5 die roll modifier for a result of 6 plus 5 is 11. I pass the test. So I place this in the pass box. This is the pass box. I collect 2 treasures. Oh, this is nice. 2 wonders. So this is worth 7 victory points each. That's a total of 14 to the 1 action. And I place this in the pass box just here. It's worth 0 victory points by itself, but again, that may be modified by my motive. Okay, now we get to roll the dice, and I'll show you again how this works. We roll, and it's a very nice roll. So 6 minus 1 is 5 actions maximum. That's the best you can get. We place hidden ship tokens in oceans number 1 and ocean number 6 over here. Now let me explain how lull turns work. I've been rolling really nicely thus far. If I rolled doubles, then we have what's called a lull turn. During a lull turn, we don't get any actions at all. It stays basically on whatever it is. From turn to turn, you're allowed to save at most 1 action into the next turn. You still proceed and place those ships in the oceans as indicated, but this is where you get to place treasure. So if I roll double ones, I would place a new treasure token in ocean 1 if it was empty. So this is your opportunity to refill some of those oceans with those treasure tokens. However, we also remove any uprising cubes that I've placed, and then you perform your actions. So you can still perform actions with the 1 action you may have saved, plus you can use these. The reason you may want to do so is because during a lull turn, some of the actions are cheaper. So anything here with an asterisk only costs 1 on a lull turn. So adventure, which is drawing from this deck, resting to regain crew, repairing to regain hull, and refitting the Nautilus with upgrades only costs 1 action on a lull turn. As it is, this isn't a lull turn. Instead I've got 5 actions, lots to do. So what shall I do? I think I'm going to go round collecting treasure. So for my first action, I'm going to move to the Eastern Pacific. For my second action, I'm going to search. I keep going to put these back and exert my crew. It's an 8, 9, 10, 11, which is a success. I gain a treasure. Third action, I'm going to move 2 seasons. I'm going to go 1, 2 up here, that should be removed. Fourth action, I'm going to search again, exerting my crew again for a +3 modifier. 6, 7, 8, 9 is another success. I draw another treasure, and it's another 3 gems. That's a nice one. That goes away. That is, once again, the end of my turn. I'm going to save this last action for my next turn. And I'll run through one more turn for you to see how it goes. All right, this is a wonder. Okay, it's a nice one to keep. So I want to pass this. Pass, and you may reset the Nemo ship resource marker to its determined space if you desire. Okay, so which means bring it down 2 spaces. Fail and lose 1 Nemo and gain 2 notoriety. Well, I think it's best to pass. So he goes down to determined. I pass that. So it's worth 7 victory points. Oh, it's a test. It's not a choice. So I can risk Nemo. Well, I may as well do that for a +2. Ooh, okay. So 5, 6, 7. Oh, so it's a fail. I'm going to lose a Nemo. I gambled. He's going to go down to determined anyway. But I think I want to re-roll. So here we go. So I've exerted 1 crew, or spent 1 crew, sacrificed 1 crew, re-rolling 5, 6, 7. Bugger. Yeah. I don't really. Is it worth it? Spending 2 crew. I really should have spent this first time. This is +2 dice roll modifier. That's 9 victory points for this. Oh. I'll fail. I'll suffer my losses. So I lose 1 Nemo. So I lose 1 for gambling. Then I lose 1 Nemo anyway. I'm down to determined. But I lose 2 notoriety. And I fail this. So I miss out on 7 victory points, which would have been really nice. Okay. So now I roll the white dice. And I get 3 and 5 for 2 additional actions. I place ships in sea zones 3 and 5. Now you can see 5 is full. So the rules state that I can place, you just follow the ship placement priority. A hidden ship in that ocean, I can't do that. A hidden ship in an adjacent ocean, well, I can't fill this up, but I can place 1 down here. So you can see how the oceans fill up. If this was already full, then we reveal a hidden ship and draw a card. I draw a ship token. So I have 3 actions rather. I'm going to move to the Indian Ocean. The board wraps around, so I come around here for 1. I'm going to search, and once again gamble my crew for +3. 5, 6, 7, 8 is a suspected treasure. So I collect a treasure. Okay, +2, but I gain a notoriety. And for my last action, I'm going to save that again. So folks, I've been doing a lot of searching. I really haven't shown you how combat works, how really anything else works, but I'm being driven in my actions by my motive. My motive is to see these wonders. I've already seen 2 of them. I unfortunately missed out on whatever this was by failing that test miserably. But it gives you a sense of how the game works. When you perform rest, repair, refit to get upgrades, when you are attacked by the enemy, it all works in much the same way. You're rolling those 2 dice, you're applying various modifiers, and you're hoping to achieve a certain level. When you attack ships, I'll just run you through how this works. As I mentioned, it works in 2 steps. Firstly, they attack you. You roll 2 dice, and well, you want to roll higher than their attack rating. So if you roll, let me give you an example. If I were to roll 4, it's less than their attack rating, they hit me. Remember, I always want to roll high. That would inflict a damage on me equal to the lower of the 2 dice. However, if you roll doubles during, if you roll double ones is a disaster and it inflicts 2d6 hits. As it is, it's just a 2, so they inflict 2 points of damage, 2 dice rolls, 1 to the crew and 1 to the crew. So the crew would go down 2 steps. After they've attacked me, I get a chance to attack them. And again, I can exert crew resources, I roll the die, and I need to roll higher than their defense. In this case, 10. And again, there are various modifiers that apply to this. There are 2 different types of attacks. There are stalk attacks, which give you a +1 modifier to that attack, but you only get 1 roll. Or you can do bold attacks, which don't give you dice roll modifiers, but you can continue the attack. So again, a lot of choices to make around that combat. at the end of the game, so you go through all this, you hope to survive, you hope that your notoriety doesn't increase too much, well, maybe you do if you're really aggressive. You're trying to sink enemy ships. Eventually, regardless of your motive, you will have to engage in combat with the enemy. They will start to spread throughout the world. The ships will fill up all these oceans. What else? You'll be attacked. There'll be these surprise attacks that come out through events. These ships will attack you. It's inevitable. So you will start sinking ships. Early in the game, I like to pick up a few little salvage ships and upgrade my ship just a little bit if there are some nice modifiers there. Or some nice upgrades, sorry. This makes it easier going forwards. Later in the game, I start to sink these ships and add them to my tonnage track to give me victory points when I don't really need those upgrades anymore. And yeah, ultimately you're trying to survive, you're trying to get through that adventure deck, the turn track up here, to reach the finale. At the end of that, you add up all your victory points, and you get victory points, as I said earlier, from ships sunk, from adventure cards, from treasure, liberation, scientific discoveries, wonders seen, and ultimately you are trying to get a respectable level of victory. Yeah, so you can see here you're scoring in the range of hundreds of points, trying to get something successful. Whatever you achieve in terms of victory, you then open the epilogue book and you read sort of a description of basically what your motive was with your exploring and your level of victory. It's a nice little epilogue of your game. So that hopefully gives you a sense of what Nemo's War is like. I think it's a great game. It's a beautiful solo game. It plays very easily. There are a lot of very interesting decisions to make. As I said, in my example, I've just been exploring a lot because that's my motive. That's the way I like to get things done. Explore early, attack late. But again, lots and lots of choices. In every turn, there are sort of a broad range of choices open to you. And as I said, it is currently on Kickstarter, so if this looks of interest, go check it out. And thanks everyone for watching.